Hello Year 5 and Year 6, it's Miss Dyer here with your writing skill for Monday the 11th of the 1st, 21. Now this video is for anybody who would like a little bit of a challenge to their writing today. I would like to take their thinking a step further than conjunctions. To be able to access this video, you need to be really confident with conjunctions and know the difference between a coordinating conjunction and a subordinating conjunction. If you're not sure about those two things, I suggest you do video 1 first and then come back to this video. Okay, so our learning objective today is to identify main and subordinate clauses in a sentence. Now, identify means to find, so we'll be finding main and subordinate clauses in a sentence. To be able to achieve this learning objective, we first need to know what a clause is. Then we'll think about the difference between a main and a subordinate clause and have a go at finding them in a sentence. So, what is a clause? Now, a clause is a group of words that contain a subject and a verb. Now, you'll know what a verb is, Year 5 and Year 6. Can you remember? That's right, a verb is a doing or action word. Can you think of an example? How about catching or running, jumping, reading? Now a subject is a noun or a pronoun. They're usually doing the action. Can you remember what a noun and a pronoun is? That's right, so a noun is a person, place or an object. And a pronoun is a word that replaces a name. For example, he or she. So again, what is a clause? A clause is a group of words that contain both a subject and a verb. Now, to really understand what a clause is, we need to recap our knowledge of sentences. So, if we think about a sentence, words are the smallest units of meaning. So each word in the sentence will have its own meaning. For example, squirrel. Phrases are groups of words conveying a meaning. For example, the fast red squirrel. Squirrel was one word with a meaning. By adding groups of words, fast red squirrel, we've conveyed a different meaning. We've built upon the meaning of squirrel. So a clause is a group of words that contain a subject and a verb. The fast red squirrel darted up a tree. Can you spot the subject and verb in that sentence? Well done to everybody who spotted the verb, darted. That's the doing or action word. It's what the squirrel is doing or did, in this case with ed on the end. Did you spot the subject? That's right, it was fast red squirrel. The subject is often the noun or pronoun that's doing the action. Now this is also a simple sentence. The fast red squirrel darted up a tree. This simple sentence contains a main clause. So a main clause is a clause that contains a subject and object. Main clauses make sense on their own. Here's an example. I like bananas. Can you spot the subject and object in that sentence? Fantastic. I is the subject and bananas are the object. This is also a simple sentence. I like bananas and I like grapes. Here we have two main clauses. I like bananas. I like grapes. They've been joined together with a connective or as we now call them, a conjunction. Can you remember the type of conjunction and is? Well done, that's right. It's a coordinating conjunction. So, a simple sentence, I like bananas, contains one main clause. When we have two main clauses, I like bananas, I like grapes, that have been joined together with a conjunction, we have a compound sentence. Both of these main clauses make sense on their own. Now, a subordinate clause is also known as a dependent clause. This is because a subordinate clause relies on being linked to a main clause to make sense. Subordinate clauses do not make sense on their own. They contain a subject and verb. Let's have a look at an example. I first met her in Paris, where I lived as a small child. Remember, main clauses make sense on their own. Subordinate clauses do not make sense on their own. Can you spot the main clause? That's right. I first met her in Paris. This makes sense on its own. It contains a subject and a verb. Subordinate clause, where I lived as a small child. This does not make sense on its own, and it also contains a subordinate conjunction. When we have a sentence with two clauses, it is called a complex sentence. This is a complex sentence because it contains more than one clause. Okay, let's have a look at some sentences together. I wonder if you can identify or find the main and subordinate clauses in this sentence. Emily searched for the lost rabbit despite the wind and rain. I got my first dog when I was 4. Sam snored while he slept on the sofa. Now, year 5 and 6, can you pause the video here? Can you spot the main and subordinate clauses in these sentences? Come back in a moment when you've had a go and we'll review the answers together. Okay, welcome back. I hope you've had a chance to find the main and subordinate clauses in these sentences. Let's have a read through together. Emily searched for the lost rabbit despite the wind and rain. Now I know that a main clause makes sense on its own. A main clause contains, can you remember? That's right, a subject and an object. I know that a subordinate clause does not make sense on its own. And to be a subordinate clause, it must rely on the main clause to make sense. It will also contain a subordinate conjunction. Let's have a look. Emily searched for the lost rabbit despite the wind and rain. Which bit makes sense on its own? That's right. Emily searched for the lost rabbit. It contains a subject, Emily, and a verb, searched. Despite the wind and rain is the subordinate clause. It contains a subordinate conjunction and it relies on the main clause for it to make sense. Let's look at the next example. I got my first dog when I was 4 years old. Can you spot the main clause? Great work, everybody. It's I got my first dog. The main clause makes sense on its own, and it has a subject and a verb. When I was 4 years old is a subordinate clause. It does not make sense on its own, but it does contain a subordinate conjunction. Let's look at the final sentence. Sam snored while he slept on the sofa. Can you spot the main clause? Which bit makes sense on its own? Well spotted, everybody. Sam snored, which means while he slept on the sofa must be the subordinate clause. And there it is. That's subordinate conjunction. Great work, everybody. Now, your teacher has uploaded a worksheet into Class Dojo Portfolio. This is what the worksheet looks like. It asks you to match the main clause on the left to the subordinate clause on the right. There are lots of different matches and lots of different sentences that make sense, so it would be best to write them out on a piece of paper. I wonder how many you can spot. Let's see if we can spot one together to get you started. We will go to the fair. Let's have a look. Is there a subordinate clause that matches? We will go to the fair provided that there is enough. No, that doesn't make sense. Enough what? We will go to the fair before it is too late. It could be that one. We will go to the fair because I'm bored. Could definitely be that one. We will go to the fair unless I say otherwise. Oh, that sounds like something a parent would say. Could be that one. We will go to the fair if it gets cold. I'm not sure that's a reason to go to the fair, so I'm not going to tick that one. We will go to the fair until we get tired. Brilliant, it could definitely be that one. We will go to the fair whenever you feel like it. Again, it could be that one as well. So as you can see, Year 5 and 6, there are a few different options that I could now write into my book. When you've had a go at matching some of the main clauses to the subordinate clauses, your second challenge today is to write 3 of your own sentences and underline the subordinate clause. Don't forget you can use subordinate conjunctions to help you. I saw a wubbub might be really useful for your sentences. As always, don't forget your full stops, capital letters and joined up handwriting. And if you really like a challenge, why not try and get some adverbials or adventurous vocabulary in there? Now, Mrs. PA and myself, we're really looking forward to seeing what learning you share on Class Dojo. Do your very best, Year 5 and 6, and have a lovely day.